The shuttle landed hard on the metal floor of Space Station Kappa 7. The doors opened, and 40 new recruits walked out into the bright lights. Most of them were big aliens with blue scales or 4 arms. Some were humans. The one human woman stood very still near the back. She held a long black case against her chest, like it was something precious. Her name was Yuna. She was small and thin. Her black hair was tied back in a simple knot. She did not look strong or scary. The alien recruits walked past her without a second look. They were too busy showing off their muscles and their weapons. A big blue alien named Gorn pushed past her. His shoulder hit her arm hard. "Move it, human," he said with a laugh. "This is not a place for weak creatures." Yuna said nothing. She just stepped aside and kept walking. Her eyes moved around the room slowly. She was not looking at the pretty lights or the big windows. She was counting the exits. She was measuring the distances. She was looking for danger. The Galactic Defense Coalition had opened this training program to all species 3 years ago. It was supposed to bring everyone together. But really, it was a place where species tried to prove they were better than everyone else. Humans had never done well here. They were too small, too slow, too weak. Everyone said so. Commander Park was a tall alien with 4 arms and many scars on his face. He stood at the front of the room and gave them the welcome speech. He told them about their rooms, their food, their training. His voice was bored. "Weapon check in 1 hour," he said then. "Bring your personal weapons to Training Hall 7. Do not be late." Everyone went to find their rooms. Yuna walked alone. She could hear the other recruits talking behind her. "Did you see the human with the box?" A big alien laughed. "What does she have in there? A toy?" "Maybe it is her blanket," another one said. "I heard humans cannot sleep without soft things." Yuna kept walking. Her face showed nothing. She found her small bed in the corner of the human sleeping area. She sat down and put the case on her knees. For a long time, she just sat there. Then she opened it. Inside was a rifle. But it was not a normal rifle. It was something special, something she had built herself over 7 years. The barrel was made of steel from a small shop in Korea. The scope was from an old alien military weapon, but she had changed it completely. The stock was made from a special bone material that aliens had invented, and around the trigger there was a thin red thread. Yuna touched the thread gently. Then she closed the case. 1 hour later, Training Hall 7 was full of noise. Recruits had spread out across the big room. They were putting their weapons on tables for the officers to check. The blue aliens had huge plasma cannons that needed 2 hands to carry. The 4-armed aliens had sets of blades, 4 for each of them. Everyone had something big and shiny and impressive. The other humans had brought normal guns. They were trying not to get noticed. Yuna set her case on an empty table and opened it. The laughter started right away. "What is that thing?" Gorm walked over with his plasma cannon on his shoulder. "Did you find it in a museum?" "It shoots bullets," a 4-armed alien said. He crossed all 4 arms and smiled. "Humans stopped using those hundreds of years ago." "Look at that scope," another voice said. "Is it held together with tape?" It was not tape. It was a special glue that Yuna had made herself. But she did not say anything. More recruits came to look. The laughter got louder. "The stand is on backwards." "Why is there string on it?" "Is that rust?" I think she is confused. This is a fighting program, not a history class. Yuna ignored them all. She started putting her rifle together. Each piece clicked into place perfectly. When she finished, she just stood there with the weapon in her arms, waiting. The inspection officers moved through the hall. They were checking each weapon and making notes. When they reached Yuna's table, about 20 recruits had gathered around to watch. The first officer, a scarred alien named Captain Beak, picked up the rifle. He turned it over. He looked at the scope. He tested how it moved. His face did not change. The second officer, a four-armed female named Lieutenant Song, ran 3 of her hands along the barrel. Her fourth hand made notes on a computer pad. "Where did you get this weapon?" Song asked. "I built it," Yuna said. Her voice was soft. "Over 7 years. And you changed the scope yourself?" "Yes. This glue on the metal parts. It is not in our records. I made it. The recipe is my secret." The crowd had gone quiet. Something in the officers' faces had changed. Captain Beak put the rifle down very carefully, much more carefully than he had handled the plasma cannons. He turned to his partner. "Lieutenant Song, how far can a normal plasma cannon shoot?" 800 meters in good weather. "And the blade weapons?" "Up to 15 meters. And this weapon?" Song studied the rifle again. Then she studied Yuna. 1,800 meters, she said slowly. "At least. With this scope and these changes, maybe 3,000 meters." The room was completely silent. Captain Beak looked at Yuna like he was seeing her for the first time. "The stand," he said. "They said it was backwards." "It is not backwards," Yuna said. "It is made for shooting upside down. I often shoot from high places, hanging. Hanging? From buildings, trees, under bridges, ships." Gorn pushed forward. "This is stupid. So she has a fancy old gun. That does not mean quiet." Captain Beak's voice was like a knife. Gorn stopped talking immediately. The captain turned back to Yuna. He spoke softly, almost to himself. "Only. Snipers set up their weapons for upside down. Shooting." The words moved through the crowd like a wave. "Only. Snipers train for 3,000-meter shots." He picked up the rifle again. This time, his hands were gentle, respectful. "Only snipers build their own weapons over 7 years. Because only snipers understand that a rifle is not just a tool. It is part of who they are." He set it down and stepped back. "Recruit Yuna. What was your job before?" "I was not military," Yuna said. "I was a hunter. In the mountains of Korea on Earth." "A hunter of what?" "Whatever needed to be hunted." Captain Beak looked at her for a long time. Then he turned to speak to everyone who had come to laugh at her. "Let me explain something," he said. "In 20 years of service, I have met only 4 real snipers. Not marksmen, not sharpshooters, snipers. People who have turned shooting into an art." He pointed at Yuna's rifle. "This weapon is not held together by luck. Every change is the result of thousands of hours of work. This can put a bullet through someone's eye from so far away you could not even see them clearly." Gorn tried to speak. "But in real fighting, Captain Beak said, by the time you are close enough to use your plasma cannon, she will have already killed you, your commander, and anyone else important. You will never see her. You will never hear her. You will just die." He turned back to Yuna. "The thread around the trigger. May I ask about it?" Yuna touched it briefly. "My grandmother's. She was a hunter too. Was? She died when I was 15. She taught me everything." Captain Beak nodded slowly. "She taught you well." He made a final note and moved on. The crowd did not leave. But no one was laughing anymore. They stared at Yuna, at this small, quiet woman who had spent 7 years building a weapon, who hunted in the mountains, who carried her grandmother's thread. Yuna started to take her rifle apart again. Each move was smooth and practiced. "Why did you come here?" someone asked. "To learn," she said without looking up. "And to show everyone what humans can do." "Everyone?" "Everyone who thinks we are soft. Everyone who thinks we are weak." She paused and looked up. "I came here because out there, somewhere, there are enemies who will look at humanity the way you just looked at me." She closed the case. and I want to be there when they learn they were wrong. The first week of training was made to break them. Commander Park told them this on the first day. The program had an 80% failure rate. Most recruits would quit or be sent home. Only the best would stay. There would be no special help for anyone. No easy paths. No mercy. The obstacle courses were built for the big blue aliens. The fighting classes were made for the four-armed species. The team exercises worked best for aliens, who could read minds. Humans struggled with everything, but Yuna was different. She could not match the strength of the blue aliens. So she did not try. When they attacked her in training, she moved like water. She let their own weight carry them into walls. She slipped through gaps too small for their big bodies. She could not match the four-armed fighters. So she created her own style. She stayed low. She moved a little. She hit the weak points in their joints with perfect aim. She could not match the mind-reading aliens. So she learned to read their bodies instead. She watched how they moved. She predicted what they would do. She was always where they did not expect. Every morning started at 5 with a 10-kilometer run. The course went through parts of the station with different gravity. Some sections were heavy, like being on a giant planet. Some were light, like floating in space. Different species did well in different sections. The other humans fell down at the end of each run. They could barely breathe. They could barely move. Yuna always finished standing. Her breathing was steady. Her pace never changed. "How do you do it?" asked Ji-hoon one night. He was a human recruit, a former soldier, tall and strong. The running had almost destroyed him. Do what? Everything. The running, the fighting, the obstacles. He shook his head. "I trained for 2 years before coming here. But you make it look easy." "It is not easy," Yuna said. She was cleaning her rifle. She did this every night, even though she had not fired it yet. "I just do not waste energy." What does that mean? Watch the blue aliens tomorrow. They are powerful, but they fight gravity with every step. They use muscles they do not need. They burn energy just to look strong. She moved a cloth along the barrel, slow and smooth. "I only use what I need. Nothing more." "You learned that from hunting?" "I learned that from waiting. Hours. Days sometimes. In the mountains, in the cold, lying perfectly still while the wind pushed against me." She paused. Patience is a weapon. Stillness is a weapon. Most people never learn this. Ji-hoon was quiet for a moment. "The instructor today was watching you during the combat test." "I know." He did not look happy. He was not. "I broke his scoring system." A small smile appeared on her face. "He expected me to lose the wrestling part because the blue aliens weigh 3 times more than me. When I made Gorn throw himself into the scoring wall, the computer counted it as his mistake, not mine." "You made a blue alien crash into a wall?" I suggested he might want to go there. He agreed very strongly. The shooting tests began in the second week. The coalition used a system with different levels. First, targets that did not move at different distances. Then, targets that moved. Finally, targets that could shoot back with stun blasts. Each species had their own way of fighting. The blue aliens used heavy firepower. The four-armed aliens used speed and many blades. The mind-reading aliens worked together perfectly. The humans used whatever they were given and hoped for the best. Yuna's shooting spot was at the end of the range. Next to her was a blue alien named Hack, who liked to make fun of her. "Still carrying that old thing?" he asked as she set up her rifle. "I thought you might have bought a real weapon by now." "Why would I need a different weapon?" "Because this is real combat practice. Those targets shoot back." "I know." The first part was simple. Targets that did not move from 100 to 500 meters away. The blue aliens blasted them with plasma fire. The four-armed aliens cut them down with energy beams. Everyone did well. Yuna took her time. 1 shot per target. Each shot hit the center perfectly. Good enough, the range officer said. But slow. I only need 1 shot, Yuna said. The second part added movement. Targets moved on tracks that changed direction. The blue aliens shot everywhere until they hit something. The four-armed aliens tracked their targets carefully. Yuna did something different. She did not follow the moving targets. She waited. Seconds passed. The range officer started to wonder if something was wrong. Then she fired. 1 shot. Target down. You are guessing where they will go, the officer said, moving to stand behind her. You are reading the machines. The machines that move the targets have a pattern, Yuna said without looking away from her scope. Every machine has a tell. You just have to listen. That is not normal training. I am not a normal trainee. The third part was where things got interesting. The targets could shoot back now. They fired stun rounds that would mark hits on the recruits' special vests. Most trainees treated this like a real fight. Hide behind cover. Shoot back. Move forward. Kill the target. Yuna did not hide. She walked onto the open floor with her rifle at her shoulder. She just stood there. The first target appeared 200 meters away. Her rifle cracked before it could fire. It went down. The second appeared at 150 meters to her left. She turned, fired, and it fell. The third and fourth came up at the same time from opposite sides. She dropped one with her first shot, then rolled forward, came up on one knee, and killed the other before it could lock onto her. Hack watched from the side. He had forgotten how to laugh. 11 targets in total. 11 shots. 11 kills. Not one stun round touched her. The range officer checked his screen. Checked it again. This score, he said slowly, would put you in the top 3% of all recruits in Coalition history. Only 3%? There were 2 targets you did not kill quickly. The ones at 400 and 600 meters. I was waiting for the wind to change. The station's air systems create a crosswind at those distances. It changes every 7 seconds. So I waited for the right moment. The officer stared at her. You noticed that the air systems affected the range? The flags near the east wall moved at a different time than the flags near the west wall. The pattern showed fake wind with a 7-second change. She shrugged a little. So I waited. From across the range, Commander Park had been watching. Now he walked over, his 4 hands behind his back. Recruit Yuna, I want to talk to you. They walked to a quiet corner, away from everyone else. I read your file, Park said. Your application says you worked in wildlife management. That seems like a small way to describe what I just saw. I did manage wildlife. Among other things. Park's face was hard to read. There are 3 years missing from your records. After your grandmother died, you seem to have disappeared. Yuna said nothing. I have seen good shooters before, Park continued. Every species has them. But what you showed today was not just good shooting. The way you read the room, guessed where targets would be, noticed things most people would miss. He paused. Where did you really learn this? In the mountains, Yuna said quietly. Hunting things that hunted back. What kind of things? The kind that the government pays to have removed. The kind that do not appear in normal reports. The kind that leave villages with no survivors. Park was silent for a long moment. Earth has such problems? Earth has old forests, deep caves, places where things hide that have been hiding for a very long time. She met his eyes. My grandmother taught me to find them. After she died, I kept doing her work. Alone? There was no one else. And the rifle? All the changes you made. Each one is something I learned, a problem I faced and solved, a target that needed something new. She paused. The upside-down stand was for a creature that lived under cliffs. The long barrel was for a target that could feel body heat from a kilometer away. I needed to shoot from outside its range. And the thread from your grandmother? Yuna touched it briefly. That is just for luck. Park studied her for a long time. Why are you really here? He asked. You could have stayed on Earth. You did not need this training. Because something is coming, Yuna said. I do not know what yet, but I have spent my life reading patterns. And the patterns I see in space politics, in military movements, in the small pieces of news. Something is wrong. Something big is building. And you want to be ready. I want humanity to be ready. We are still seen as the newcomers. The weak ones. The species that needs protection. Her voice got harder. When that moment comes, I want them to know what we really are. And what is that? Yuna smiled. It was a small, cold smile. Survivors. We have been surviving for our entire history. Ice ages, diseases, wars with ourselves. Every other species grew up in places that made them strong. Humanity grew up in a place that tried to kill us every day. We did not get claws or armor or mind powers. We got patience. We got the ability to wait for the right moment. We got the will to never give up. She turned to look at the other recruits still doing their tests. Your program is made to fail 80% of recruits. That is because you test them on being like other species. You never test them on being human. And when you face a problem that needs patience, that needs someone to wait in the cold for days until the perfect shot, you will find that we are not as weak as you thought. She walked back toward the range. Park watched her go. That night in the sleeping area, Ji-hoon found her cleaning her rifle again. 3 months into the program, the whispers began. They started in the command areas, among officers who thought their secret channels were safe. They spread through the training staff. They reached the recruits as small pieces. Something about a border problem. About ships that stopped responding. About colonies that went silent. Yuna heard them all. She had made friends carefully over the past weeks. She talked to the cleaning staff and supply workers. The invisible people who moved through the station. They heard things. They remembered things. And they talked if you knew how to listen. It is the Kreth Empire, one of her sources told her. His name was Do-hwan, a technician who fixed the shooting range equipment. They have been building up forces along the border for months. The coalition has been sending ships, but quietly. Very quietly. Why quietly? Because the last time there was open war with the Empire, 3 species almost died out. Do-hwan's hands were shaking. That was 200 years ago. My grandparents still have nightmares about it. The Kreth Empire was the coalition's oldest enemy. They were a group of species joined not by friendship, but by conquest. They did not join the coalition because they did not believe in working together. They believed in taking what they wanted, and they had been watching humanity join the galaxy with great interest. The mid-program test was supposed to be normal. Instead, Commander Park gathered all remaining recruits in the main briefing room. Only 41 remained from the original 112. There's been a change in your schedule, he said. You are being sent on a real mission now. Silence. Then chaos. We are not ready. A blue alien shouted. We have not finished weapons training. A human yelled. What about the team exercises? We only did 3 of the 8. Park, let them panic for 30 seconds. Then he raised one hand. You are not going to fight. Not directly. He turned on a floating display showing an area of space near the coalition's edge. This is the Coral System. 3 days ago, a research station stopped answering calls. Yesterday, a patrol ship sent to check also went silent. The display zoomed in on a small planet, gray, rocky, covered in old ruins. Station Theta 7 was studying alien objects found in caves under the surface. The objects are older than any known civilization, about 50,000 years older. Whatever happened there, we need to understand it before the Empire does. Is the Empire involved? Someone asked. We do not know. That is what you will find out. Park put his hands behind his back. This is a real mission with real danger. You will be put into teams. You will land on the planet. You will reach the research station and find out what happened to the people there. You will gather information, not fight. Understand? Weak agreement from the crowd. Good. Team lists in 1 hour. You leave in 6. The teams were clearly made to test how species work together. Each team had blue aliens, 4-armed aliens, humans, and at least one mind reader. Yuna was put on Team 7. With her were Gorn, the blue alien who had pushed her on the first day. 2 4-armed twins named Callus and Vorn, Ji-hoon, and a mind reader called Whisper who talked mostly through feelings. Their landing spot was a narrow canyon 3 kilometers. From the research station, the drop was rough. The planet's air was thick with dust that confused the sensors. But they landed safely. Yuna was first out, her rifle already together and at her shoulder, checking the canyon for danger. Clear, she said softly. There is nothing here, Gorn said, stomping out with his plasma cannon ready. Let me go first. The human can watch our backs. The human, Yuna said calmly, is the only one whose weapon will not light up every sensor within a kilometer when fired. I go first. You cover us if we are attacked. You do not give me orders. She is right, Ji-hoon said. He had trained with Yuna for months now. He trusted her. Plasma weapons make huge heat signals. If something hostile is out there, we do not want to announce ourselves. Gorn growled but did not argue. They moved through the canyon carefully. Yuna in front, the twins covering the sides. Gorn and Ji-hoon in the back. Whisper floating in the middle, constantly scanning for hostile feelings. The caves began half a kilometer in. Old tunnels, clearly made by tools. The cuts in the rock were too perfect for primitive natives. The objects, Callus-breathed, her 4 hands touching patterns on the walls. They are everywhere. These carvings. I have never seen anything like them. Focus, Yuna said. We are not here to study. We are here to find survivors. They went deeper. The tunnels split and joined again, a maze that would have been impossible without their mapping machines. The air grew colder. The walls grew stranger. The carvings showed scenes of beings that did not match any known species. And then they found the first body. It was a 4-armed researcher, twisted in a position that said they had died running from something. Their face was frozen in complete terror. No wounds, Morn said, scanning the body with her medical tools. No signs of violence. No poison. It is like they just stopped. Stopped what? Living. Their hearts stopped. Their brains stopped. Everything just switched off. Whisper sent a wave of fear so strong that even Gorm shifted nervously. Something is wrong here. The mind reader's voice echoed in their heads. Something old. Something that does not want us here. Then we move faster, Yuna said. She checked her rifle. Full magazine. Scope ready. Safety off. The station is 1.3 kilometers ahead. We get in. We find what we can. We get out. No side trips. They found more bodies as they moved. Researchers. Security guards. Even a repair robot that had simply stopped working. All of them showed the same cause of death. Nothing. Just a sudden stop of everything. This is not a weapon I know, Gorn said quietly. His earlier pride had disappeared. This is something else. Alien, Una finished. Truly alien. Not Empire. Something older. They reached the research station's outer doors. They were sealed from inside. Callus worked on opening the lock while the others watched for danger. Someone started emergency lockdown, Callus said. The whole station is closed. Whatever happened, they had time to try to protect themselves. And it did not work, Ji-hoon said, looking at the bodies they had passed. Nothing they did worked. The door finally opened. Inside was a corridor lit only by emergency lights. The station's power was running on backup. They searched the station carefully. Sleeping rooms, laboratories, storage areas. Bodies everywhere, all dead from the same unknown cause. The main research lab was in the center of the station. Yuna went in first, rifle up, checking the room, and stopped. In the middle of the lab, surrounded by dead researchers, stood an object. It was a pillar of black stone, about 2 meters tall. Carvings covered it, carvings that seemed to move when you were not looking directly at them. And it was glowing, a faint pulsing light with no clear source. Do not touch it, Una said immediately. Do not even look at it directly. What is it? Gorn asked. His plasma cannon was lowered. Even he could feel this was beyond weapons. It is what killed them. Una's voice was steady, but inside, every warning she had was screaming. Look at the bodies. They are all facing away from it. They were running, but the ones closest to the door died first. That does not make sense. If they were running away, they were not running from it. They were running toward it, and something stopped them. She studied the room with her hunter's eyes. They found this object in the caves. They brought it here to study. And then it woke up. Woke up? It is old. Older than any civilization we know. And it was waiting for something. She paused, watching the pulsing light. It is still waiting. Whisper's emotions had become almost unbearable. Ancient fear and terrible purpose that made them all want to run. We need to leave, the mind reader said. Now, before it notices us. It already noticed us, Una said, the moment we entered the caves. But we are not what it is looking for. How do you know that? Because we are still alive. She raised her rifle, looked through the scope at the object, and saw something that made her blood run cold. The carvings on the pillar were not random. They were a countdown. Get everyone out, she said quietly. Now. What? Why? Because this is not an object. It is a signal. It has been calling something for a very long time. She checked her scope again. The countdown is almost done. Whatever it has been calling is almost here. They ran. Not information. Not carefully. Just ran. Through the corridors, through the tunnels, toward the surface and their ship and the hope of escape. Behind them, the signal pulsed faster. They burst out of the caves just as the sky changed. Something was coming down through the clouds. Something huge and dark and wrong. A shape that hurt to look at. That seemed to exist in more directions than their eyes could see. The ship. Gorn roared. Move. They scrambled into the drop ship as the ground began to shake. Una was last in, pausing at the door to look up at the descending nightmare. For one moment, just one, she raised her rifle. Through the scope, she could see details of the creature. Could see that it had something like eyes. Could see that those eyes were looking at her. And could see that, for just a second, it seemed surprised. Una. Ji-hoon grabbed her arm, pulled her inside. The ship's engines fired, and they shot upward just as the creature touched down where they had been standing. In the chaos of escape. No one noticed that Una was smiling. The report session was chaotic. Several teams had seen similar things across the planet. The news spread through the coalition like fire. Something had awakened. Something old. And the coalition, with all its military power, had no idea how to fight it. Emergency meetings were held. Species that had been rivals for 1,000 years suddenly sat in the same rooms. They stared at the same terrifying sensor data. They reached the same impossible conclusions. And in the middle of it all, one quiet human recruit had become the center of attention. Yuna was called to High Command 3 days after returning from Coral. The chamber was huge and ancient. It was built when the Coalition was young and hopeful. 7 species had built it together, each adding parts from their own style. It was meant to show unity. Now it felt like a tomb. The Coalition Council had representatives from all 12 member species. They sat in a half-circle, all looking at the small human woman standing before them. She still had her rifle case on her back. "Recruit Yuna," the High Commander began. He was a blue alien named General Beak. He was the same person who had checked her weapon on the first day of training. Now she learned he was much more than a simple officer. "You have given us a plan for fighting the creature from Coral. We have questions. I expected you would. Your plan says these creatures can be killed with normal weapons. Our best scientists think this is too hopeful." Your best scientists did not look one of them in the eye. A murmur went through the council. "Explain," General Beak said. Yuna stepped forward and turned on the floating display. The image that appeared made several council members flinch. It was her scope recording from Coral, the moment she had looked up at the descending creature. "Watch its reaction when it realizes I am watching it," she said. The recording played slowly, the creature's strange eyes shifting, focusing, and for just a moment, it hesitated. A 4-armed council member said. It was not expecting that. It was not expecting anything. These things are old beyond understanding, but they are also proud. They have been sleeping so long they forgot what resistance looks like. They expect us to run or freeze or die. They do not expect us to fight. That does not mean we can win. No, but it means we can surprise them. And surprise is the start of every successful hunt. She zoomed in on the creature's form. Look at its shape. It exists in more dimensions than we can see, but it still has focus points. Places where its energy gathers. Things that might be weak spots. You are guessing. I am hunting. Every predator has weaknesses. These things are large and powerful and ancient, but they are also slow. They think in very long time. They expect their prey to scatter and be picked off easily. They do not expect organized resistance. A council member made of pure energy flickered with interest. You are suggesting we become the hunters instead of the hunted. I am suggesting we already are. Humanity has been hunting things larger and more dangerous than ourselves since before we had words. We killed giant elephants with pointed sticks. We killed whales with rope. We hunted each other across continents for land and resources. She paused. We are not the biggest species in this room. We are not the strongest, but we are the most stubborn. When we decide something needs to die, it dies. It just takes us time to figure out how. And you believe you can figure out how to kill one of these creatures? I believe I already have ideas worth testing. And I believe that if every species contributes their special strengths, blue alien toughness, 4-armed precision, mind reader coordination, human stubbornness, we might be able to build weapons these things have never seen. The council fell silent. Then, slowly, General Beak began to laugh. It was not a mocking laugh. It was something like respect. When you first arrived at the station, he said, I watched a young human woman carry a case onto my training floor. I watched her endure the mockery of recruits who thought they knew what strength was. I watched you outshoot every one of them. I watched you adapt to every challenge. And I wondered what made humanity so different from what we expected. He stood up, his huge body towering over the chamber. Now I understand. You are survivors. Not because you are powerful, but because you refuse to accept that survival is impossible. You look at the most terrible things in the universe, and you do not see monsters. You see prey. He turned to the full council. I propose we create a special team to develop ways to fight these creatures. And I propose recruit Yuna lead the human part of this work. She's just a recruit, someone objected. She has not even finished basic training. She's the only person in this room who has looked one of these creatures in the eye and lived to study the experience. That makes her more qualified than any training could. The vote was close, but it passed. Over the following weeks, Yuna found herself at the center of something new. A real coalition, not just in name. Representatives from every species shared ideas, technology, and knowledge they would never have shared before. The blue aliens offered their best armor technology, materials that could survive forces that would destroy normal matter. The four-armed species shared their knowledge of biology. They studied the few samples recovered from the creature encounters. Looking for weaknesses, the mind readers gave something equally valuable. A network of psychic beacons that could warn when a creature was coming. And the humans? They gave what they did best. The willingness to try things that no sane being would attempt. The problem, Yuna explained during one planning meeting, is that we think about this like a military fight. Armies against armies. But that is not how you hunt something bigger than yourself. That is just how you get killed. Then how do you hunt something bigger than yourself? Gorn asked. He had become one of her closest helpers. His earlier mockery was gone, replaced by something like admiration. Use traps, poison, terrain. You find what they need and take it away. You find what they fear and give it to them. You do not fight them in the open. You make them fight on your terms, in your space, with weapons they have never seen. She showed a map of the galaxy with all the creature contact points marked. 17 confirmed locations now. Dozens more suspected. Each awakening site has something in common. They are all in systems with lots of people. The creatures are not waking up randomly. They are drawn to life. They are hungry, and we are the food. So we leave? A four-armed officer suggested. We cannot. There are trillions of people in these systems. We could not move them all in 1,000 years. Yuna shook her head. No, we have to change the math. Make ourselves harder to eat than we are worth. How? By making the cost of hunting us higher than the benefit. These things are old and patient, but they are also logical. If attacking a system means losing resources, taking damage, spending energy they cannot easily replace, they will look for easier targets. But if there are no easier targets, then they will starve. Or they will negotiate. Or they will leave. Yuna's eyes were cold. The point is not to win a war. The point is to make war so expensive that it is not worth fighting. It took months to build the first weapons. They called them spines. Orbital platforms designed to detect when a creature was coming and hit it with weapons aimed at its weak points. The technology was blue alien at its core, but the targeting was four-armed design. The early warning was mind reader, and the battle plan was pure human done. Wait for them to commit. Let them think they have won. Then hit them from angles they never expected. The first real test came 6 months after Coral. A creature had begun awakening in the desert system, home to 4 billion four-armed people and their main shipbuilding industry. They could not leave. They had to defend. Yuna watched from the command center of a station called Hope's Last. It was a good name, she thought, for what they were trying. Contact in 3 minutes, the sensor operator said. Creature approaching. Size is significant. All spine platforms to ready, the tactical officer ordered. All normal ships, clear the area. No, Yuna's voice cut through. Keep 3 ships in the creature's path. What? Those crews will be killed. Those ships are empty. skeleton crews of volunteers, all in escape pods ready to launch. The creature expects prey to scatter. If everything runs, it will chase the biggest group and ignore our platforms. But if something stays something that looks like resistance, it will pause to deal with the threat first. You want to bait it. I want to make it commit to an approach that exposes its main weak point to all 8 spine platforms at once. The tactical officer looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. All vessels, do it. Designated ships, stay in position and prepare to evacuate on my mark. The creature came out of dimensional fold like a nightmare made real. It was bigger than the one on Coral, much bigger. A mountain of impossible shapes that made sensors scream. It paused at the edge of the system. It looked toward the inhabited worlds, the easy prey, and then it noticed the 3 ships that had not run. Just like on Coral, the surprise was visible. A pause, a moment of thinking. The creature turned toward the ships. All crews evacuate now. Escape pods shot away as the creature's attention focused on the ships. It began to move, drawn by the apparent challenge, exposing its side to the orbital platforms, spines 1 through 8. Fire. 8 concentrated beams designed by 4 species hit the creature's weak points at the same time. The effect was immediate. The creature screamed. It was a sound that existed in frequencies no ear should hear. 10 years had passed since Thessa. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have imagined. The Kreth Empire had joined the coalition, not through conquest or talks, but through simple math. When ancient gods woke up to eat the universe, old fights seemed stupid. The Elder War, as people called it, had cost billions of lives. 17 worlds had been eaten before good defenses were built. Another 40 had been emptied, their people scattered across the galaxy as refugees. But humanity had been right. The elders could be hurt. They could be pushed back. And given enough time, enough ideas, enough pure stubborn refusal to quit, they could be killed. Una stood on the bridge of her ship. It was called Grandmother's Thread, named for the red string that still wrapped around her. Trigger guard. She was not the same woman who had walked onto that training, stationed with a rifle case and a quiet desire to prove humanity's worth. Command had aged her. Responsibility had hardened her. The weight of billions of lives had carved lines around her eyes. But her core was the same. She was still the hunter who lay motionless in mountain snow. Still the woman who looked monsters in the eye and calculated angles. Final positions confirmed, her tactical officer reported. He was a young blue alien named Gorn, grandson of the Gorn who had once mocked her rifle. All 200 ships in formation. Spine platforms ready. Ground teams on the surface. The Elder? Approaching. Expected arrival in 4 minutes. This was the big one. Not just an awakening creature, but something they called Prime, the largest Elder ever recorded. A being so huge it existed partly in dimensions their best scientists still could not name. It had been moving toward the galactic center for years, eating everything in its path. Worlds, fleets, even other elders. The coalition had moved trillions of people out of its way, but eventually the path led here, to a system with no people, but with something more valuable. The last gate. No one knew who built it, but it was old. A stable wormhole that connected to 17 different systems. Faster travel across half the galaxy. If Prime ate the gate, it would reach areas protected by distance. The safe zones. The refugee worlds. The last hiding places. Everything. Double quotes 2 minutes to arrival. Una touched the thread around her rifle's trigger. Her grandmother had died hunting things that should have been legends. Now Una was about to face something that made those childhood nightmares look like insects. All ships, this is Fleet Commander Una. Her voice reached every ship in the fleet, every species that had once dismissed humanity as weak. You know what we face. This creature is larger than anything we have ever fought. Its power is beyond our models. By any logical analysis, this battle should be impossible to win. She paused. But we are not logical. We are survivors. Every species in this fleet has faced death and refused it. The blue aliens survived the glacial wars. The four-armed people, rebuilt after the burn. The mind readers existed for ages as scattered pieces before coming together again. And humanity. A thin smile crossed her face. Humanity has been staring death in the face since we climbed down from trees. We are still here. Arrival in 30 seconds. Today, we hunt. Today, we show this ancient thing that the galaxy is not empty prey waiting to be eaten. Today, we remind it that the universe belongs to those who refuse to die. 10 seconds. All hands, battle stations. All spine platforms, prepare to fire. All strike teams, stand ready. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mark. Prime emerged like the birth of an evil star. It was beyond huge. A presence that bent space itself. Every sensor on every ship screamed with readings that should not exist. For a moment, even Una felt the weight of it. The impossibility of fighting something so large, so old, so far beyond anything normal. Then she saw its eyes focus on the fleet. Saw the surprise there, just as she had seen 10 years ago on Coral. The ancient pride. Shaken by finding resistance where it expected none. Spine platforms. Fire. 68 orbital platforms fired at the same time. The energy that hit Prime would have shattered planets. Prime felt it. It roared in that frequency that made minds ache. Parts of its form flickered. Wounds opened in its dimensional structure. But it did not retreat. It is adapting, the tactical officer said, his voice tight. Energy changing. It is protecting its weak points. Then we hit the new weak points. All ships, attack pattern storm. Strike teams go. The fleet moved like a living thing. Blue alien dreadnoughts drew Prime's attention while four-armed strikers cut at its sides. Mind readers linked the fleet's minds into one tactical brain, reactions faster than any normal command. And the human ships? They went where no one else would go, into Prime's dimensional shadow. It was crazy. Everyone knew it was crazy. The space around an elder was unstable, filled with energies that could tear ships apart. But humans had never let sanity stop them. Strike Team Alpha in position. Target found. The strike teams were humanity's contribution to elder warfare. Small groups who volunteered for suicide missions. They flew ships designed to survive just long enough to deliver their weapons. The survival rate was 17%. There were never enough spots for all the volunteers. Strike Team Beta in position. Ready. Strike Team Gamma in position. We have lock. Una watched tiny human ships enter Prime's dimensional shadow, targeting weaknesses that only existed because Prime was focused on the larger fleet. Weaknesses that shifted constantly. Weaknesses that needed human adaptability, human instant decisions, human willingness to do the impossible. All strike teams fire. Tiny suns bloomed in Prime's shadow. Special warheads designed to break dimensional anchoring. Prime's roar changed from anger to pain. Then something went wrong. Strike Team Delta is hit. They are leaking air. Their warhead failed. On the display, Una saw the tiny ship tumbling in Prime's shadow. Caught between normal space and something worse. Without thinking, she was moving. Grabbing her rifle. Running to the launch bay. Commander? Where are you? Take command. Continue the attack. She was in the bay now, climbing into a tiny one-person ship. I am going to finish Delta's mission. That is suicide. That is the job. Her ship launched like a bullet, diving toward the chaos of prime shadow. Every alarm screamed. The hull groaned as dimensional forces tried to tear it apart. But Yuna had been flying impossible approaches since before she could walk. She had learned to navigate mountain winds that changed without warning. This was just another impossible place to adapt to. She found Delta's ship, tumbling, its crew unconscious, its warhead still attached to the hull. "Come on," she whispered, bringing her ship alongside, matching the tumble. "Come on." She could not dock, could not grab the warhead physically, but she could do something else. She opened her ship's canopy. The dimensional energies hit her like fire, and ice in colors that should not exist. She felt reality trying to tear her apart. Her mind stretched toward breaking as it processed things human eyes were never meant to see. She raised her rifle. The warhead was magnetically locked to Delta's hull. The lock was standard design. Tough but not impossible. A perfect shot could break the connection. A perfect shot. In dimensional chaos from a tumbling ship. At a target smaller than her fist. Impossible. But Yuna had built her career on impossible shots. She took a breath, felt the rhythm of the dimensional changes, the pattern beneath the chaos, found the moment of stillness that every hunter knows. The instant between heartbeats when everything lines up. She fired. The magnetic lock broke. The warhead drifted free, and she caught it in her ship's emergency magnetic hold. Grandmother's thread. This is Yuna. I have the package. Setting detonation for 30 seconds. Get the fleet clear. Commander, your exit path. There is no exit path. Get clear. She flew her ship deeper into prime shadow, toward the largest concentration of dimensional instability she could find. Behind her, she could hear the fleet's chatter. Ships pulling back. Voices calling her name. Young Gorn's voice cut through. "Commander, there has to be another way. Tell them what we did today." Her finger hovered over the trigger. "Tell them that humans do not run. Tell them that we hunt until the end." Yuna, the thread survives, Gorn. The thread always survives. She pressed the trigger. The explosion was designed to break dimensional anchoring. When it went off at the heart of prime shadow, it did more than that. It tore a hole in reality itself, a wound in the dimensions that prime existed within. The elder scream was beyond sound, beyond thought. It was the dying cry of something that had existed since the universe was young, something that had never imagined it could end. Prime's form collapsed, fell out of normal space and into the dimensional wound that Yuna's sacrifice had created. In the command centers of every coalition ship, in the observation posts of a dozen worlds, in the refugee camps where survivors huddled and waited for news. Beings of many species watched as an ancient god died, and they wept. Not for the elder, for the small, human woman who had shown them what courage looked like, who had proven that humanity's greatest weapon was not technology or numbers or even stubbornness. It was the willingness to give everything for the hunt. The memorial service was held 3 months later, in a plaza on Earth built just for this. Representatives from every species in the coalition came. The old General Beak, now gray and bent, stood beside four-armed diplomats and mind-reader speakers, and even delegates from the former Kreth Empire.